Welcome back to the Unwind podcast. I'm your host, Lucas. I run a couple of agencies, one being a creative agency and another being a TikTok first agency. I also recently started an e-com brand, so very much still on my journey to finding success as an entrepreneur. Now, this podcast is all about meeting with like-minded entrepreneurs and professionals to go deep, have a little bit of fun as well over a drink or two out of office hours. Most business podcasts struggle to do that and are a bit formal and professional and interview-like, and we definitely want to break that and go deeper, have a bit of fun, as well as offer tons of value. So you can find us on Spotify or YouTube at Unwind Podcast. Now let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Unwind. Today I am joined by Ross Welch, who is founder of Perspective Studios and Perspective Academy. Ross, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Pleasure.
So yeah, me and Ross have known each other for good few years now, haven't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been wanting to get him on the podcast. We had some bad luck. You were pretty ill, weren't you, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I felt so bad as well. I'm such a people pleaser that I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I was honestly KO'd. I don't think it was COVID, but I was so bad, and I was like ringing you like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you sounded fucked, to be fair.
Yeah,
but
well, I felt really pleased to be asked to come on to start with, and then I'm like, I'm ill, can't come in.
So yeah, like there's a load of shit we're gonna get into. We got pretty deep actually before the podcast started. Normally we leave that for like the last 20 minutes. So yeah, loads of stuff we can talk about. But I guess firstly, just give a bit of context as to you, what your businesses are, and then we'll go back to the start really.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm Ross. I probably most importantly am a father and a husband.
Yes.
Should start with that. That's a fairly new thing. Interest in one. Maybe that's for the last 20 minutes. No, and I run a couple of businesses as well. So I have a video production company, that's Perspective Studios. I have an online coaching academy called Perspective Academy, very inventive with the name there, you'll notice, where we basically help freelancers, videographers and photographers start businesses and help make them successful. Then we also have a studio rental business as well, because we have a big film studio, so we rent that out.
Oh, nice. So that's like a separate entity then?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the studio space is very cool. Your offices are very, very cool. Sadly, we could not get anything like that here in London for any kind of anything within our budgets.
I would imagine our probably yearly rent is probably just as much as your monthly fee in central London.
It's a joke. Tax alone, is 50% extra of what you're paying on rent, which is a joke, like for business rates. But yeah, so yeah, I guess like let's go back to the start then. Really, I always start with this question: like, what were you like as a child? Were there those like entrepreneurial flares? Like, what did that all look like?
Yeah, I've given this some thought actually, and I think there's so many points throughout my life that I've kind of forgotten about and just kind of taken it for granted. But every one of those things is kind of no surprise I'm in the position that I'm in today as well. So when I think back, there was actually loads, but I would never have called it that at the start or really known what it was. I mean, I got suspended from school for a period of time because I would go to France with my family. Buy lots of those like firecrackers.
Oh yeah.
I'd buy them for about 20 cents, and then I'd come back to school and send them for £1 each. So we had like a good little thing. The reason we almost got suspended is because someone set one off in a lesson. So
right. I thought you were saying you almost got suspended because you went to France during school time.
Back then you were allowed to. Back then it was fine. So always kind of had that. We used to go out carol singing as well, and I can't sing at all, right? But we used to make probably about £400 every Christmas, just going and knocking on people's doors, carol singing them, giving you some money, and then like washing people's cars. So a long-winded way of saying, like there's always been those things, and I've never really kind of put two and two together, which might sound quite obvious and silly, but there's always been those kind of sparks of wanting to do that.
It's true. Like when you're younger, you don't think, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Like, I can see that, you didn't really know what that was at that age. You're just doing what you're kind of naturally almost born to do, it feels like. You kind of just naturally progress into doing these things. And I think I was saying it on a podcast with Mark Hustle, who's, I think that's going out well, it should be already out when this goes live. But you know, we were both saying about that it's kind of like problem solving in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just you're kind of thinking of ways that you can do that.
It was just a bit of fun as well. It wasn't really like, didn't think of it as like money or business. Yeah, I don't know. And you know, in quite contrast, my dad actually spent my entire life growing up saying he's got his own business, car mechanics garage, and he's built that to a really reputable, nice business. He's come from absolute nothing, absolutely nothing. And he's done a phenomenal job, and I've learned from him. I've learned a lot of things what not to do, as I'm sure you know won't mind me saying, as well as like things that, you know, lots of learnings. But my entire childhood was, don't have your own business. Go work for someone.
Really?
Do not have your own business. You don't want the stress.
What, from
don't
your
do
dad?
it. From my dad.
From?
My whole entire
Wow.
childhood, and here I am with like 3 businesses.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're told not to do something, you want to fucking do it even more.
Yeah, I don't even know. I didn't feel that like anarchy. Like, let's go against the grain. It was just naturally happened.
I think just like for me anyway, I don't learn from hearing. I learn from seeing and doing. So it's probably something similar. He's saying one thing but then doing another with his business. So
yeah, totally. I think that kind of engineering mindset. So over lockdown, I've replaced all 3 bathrooms in our house.
Oh, nice.
Like,
I wish I could do that kind of shit.
But that's, I think, but then for me, it's kind of like, I've just always been around him and always learned, like, if you don't know how to do something, learn.
Right.
Learn from people, figure it out, watch YouTube videos, like, just give it a go. Like, what's the worst that can happen, kind of thing. So I've always been, you know, don't get me wrong, like, I think they look nice, but a professional, you know, plumber might come around and be like, oh, that's not quite how I do that or whatever. But, you know, I'm happy to try those things. And I think a lot of people kind of hold themselves back by not just giving it a go. So maybe that's it. Probably learning that hard work ethic from him, really. And then taking that forward.
Yeah, nice. So were you academic growing up? Like what did you know, how was your childhood at school, and you know that did you enjoy school?
No, not really. I wasn't really like the class clown. I was the popular kid that was liked by everyone, not the popular kid that was like the arsehole. Like, I got on with everyone. I just really, if I couldn't liken it to a real world environment, I just didn't connect with it. And this is actually a pretty funny story. So I worked out probably in about year 10 that the kids that were naughty and then were well behaved got rewarded more than the other kids. So I was like purposely, this is bad, and I feel bad for this now, but I was purposely like disruptive and naughty at like the start of year 10, then just acted normal. And then like particularly, so I got to a point where I was sent out of music lesson. I wasn't even allowed into the lesson. I'd have to start the lesson outside, and that's it. Like, I was not allowed in there. I was banned. And then I made a deal with her that I would behave for half an hour of the lesson, and then for the other half an hour I was allowed in the drum room, and only like the 6th formers were allowed in the drum room, which was just like, which is just jokes, just like cutting deals with teachers. But to
not be fucking naughty, that's so funny.
Yeah, just to be normal. But you know, like, as you get older and stuff, and you think like, that's, you know, it's not great for everyone else and stuff. But yeah, I never really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fun, I enjoyed friends, but I didn't go to uni, and that was the reason behind that, because I was like, why do I want to pay so much money to just go and party? For me, it was kind of like it had no real kind of purpose. But the big turning point for me then was I was getting really good at skiing. So I did freestyle skiing. That's how I know Joe Hyde.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that link. Of course, wow, we were on a group chat together, so I shouldn't do. But I completely forgot about that today. So Joe, obviously, one of the co-founders of Affluent with Jordan, who's been on the podcast. You guys obviously know each other pretty well. Yeah,
it's been like, just as a very quick breakdown. So I know Joe through skiing. We were both professional skiers with each other. And then we kind of parted ways as we went off and did our own things. I did my video production. Joe did social media marketing. Joe met Jordan. I then got invited to come do some filming at one of Jordan's events.
We met, wasn't
where
it?
we met, yeah. And then later on, Jordan mentored me through the academy when I wanted to start that up. So it's been a really organic kind of, that's a very corporate term, that isn't it? It's just been a real natural friendship that's kind of worked out nicely. And yeah, nice, kind of cool to see it come full circle.
Talk about the skiing side then, because that's fucking exciting. I mean, yeah, some of the videos I've seen on your socials of like you fucking lugging these huge expensive cameras around on crazy jumps. Like, it's really, really cool and impressive. Talk about like how you got into that, and you know, I guess were you a professional skier? Or?
Yeah. I mean, like, right. I think there's kind of a grey area here, right? When you think of professional sportsmen, you kind of think of footballers, right? On millions of pounds. That's not the case, right? So, you know, bearing in mind, and this is by my standard, I'm getting straight into it, disgraceful, is that we have people going to the Olympics that still have to work at McDonald's and work jobs just to fund the Olympics, but they're expected to like wave the flag and, oh, Team GB did this, and like behind the scenes, there's a lot of politics that goes on. But yes, I made a living out of it, and I think that's where, again, as I've moved into business, I've actually understood that everything that you do in life, you might not think will benefit you later on, but it really makes a huge difference. And I wasn't the best skier in the world. I knew that. You know, I wasn't even going to be the best in the country. But I was really good at understanding what businesses and brands wanted. They wanted a return on investment. If they're giving me a couple £1,000 or they're giving me free skis and they're giving me free equipment, what do they need in return? They need sales. They need to make that money back. So I was, as a result, able to make a lot more money than people that were going to the Olympics because I understood that kind of leverage. And Joe shared that as well. So we'd often go on business calls with each other, and yeah, he's obviously a hilarious character. And we would obviously kind of work on those things together. But in terms of skiing, I did freestyle skiing, so off the big jumps, like you might see in the Olympics, the snowboarders do and stuff, do flips, spins, tricks, and all of that stuff, try and land on your feet. And I did that for probably about a period of 7 years.
Wow.
In 7 years, I was in hospital 13 times. So, I mean, you could argue if I was good or not. I mean, it is dangerous.
Or just really audacious.
Just really, pushing the boundaries, I think what they say. Yeah. So I've had little fractures in my neck. I had a ski go through my eyelid.
Fucking hell.
On my tricep is like severed as well, where a ski went through that. I've had all the breaks. The breaks are normally quite easy, but then I've like ruptured all the ligaments in my knee and stuff. And Joe was there when I did that actually. And he was there while I was recovering, and he would ski around the mountain with me, piggybacked on him, so I could just go up and watch people. And that's when I got into filming, because I had nothing to do. I was being paid to be on resort and heal and have, various physiotherapy and stuff. So Joe would take me up on the mountain, I would start filming, and we made our first ski film, and we got sponsors for it, and that's how it kind of started that whole momentum. And then sponsors became clients. And then before you knew it, it was just kind of like became this whole new thing where I was like, yep, starting to settle down with my now wife, Kath, who is really cool. We met at school, and she's seen me go from being at school, skiing a little bit, not really knowing what I wanted to do, carol singing, stuff like that, to then having a ski career, to then doing what I'm doing now. And she's been with me throughout. And she's a veterinary nurse, and she's, has a successful career in that. And, equally very proud of her, but that dynamic has worked really well.
So what were you together from school then?
Yeah, from school. Amazing. So from like the last
proper childhood sweethearts.
Last 2 years of school, yeah. So we've been together maybe like 13, 14 years now, married for a few of those. And obviously have a Henry, our little boy.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It's, so if I'm looking tired, trust me, nothing prepares you for this.
Especially when you're probably running a business, right?
And actually, that's something we should dive into as well. Is I'm really struggling to work out my times, and how to spend my time, I wasn't grasping it well enough, and if anyone's got any advice and wants to reach out, I'd love to know how people run multiple businesses, just to give some insights to how maybe I could do it. I think I've got a few things that I'm trying to tick through as well, but I really think having that structure, I lost that completely. And you would think that when you have a child, it gives you everything that you need. Motivation, right? I lost all motivation the second he was born. Bear in mind, by the way, exit strategy is really important. I always wanted to build a business that, number one, when I had a child, I could be around for more, because I don't remember my dad not being there, but my dad was always working. I can see how that's affected him. So I always wanted to be there. I wanted to go swimming with whenever we decided to have kids. That's why I set up the business. And then I wanted a business that I could retire on and still makes money, or we sell it or whatever. So when Henry was born, I took like a month or so off work, and that was of no surprise. It's all of these years of preparation. That's what I wanted. So it was no surprise that I was able to do that. What I was surprised about is I just had no motivation to do any work whatsoever. The tiredness is very real, and then as well as like trying to grow multiple businesses, and it's been crazy, really hard to kind of really understand the best workflow, and we're getting there. We're getting there with it now. I have Nathan, who works for me in Perspective Studios, the video production side, and he's really my right hand man and does a phenomenal job. And we actually sat down about this the other day, and we spoke about him taking control of that while I focus on the academy,
right?
Because that's where at the moment I get a lot of fulfillment out of that and passion. And again, I've said to you before the podcast, we've been putting out fires for a long time, and that's taken its toll, as well as trying to juggle a new baby and wanting to be at home and go swimming. And I'm fortunate I have a business that can still do that. But it's an interesting thing. I don't know if many people out there could potentially relate to that, but it's been kind of a difficult period of time, to be honest with you. Yeah,
and we'll get into that. But how then? Actually, we're jumping around a little bit. We've come quite far forward. So I definitely want to get onto this, but I want to give some context first up until that point. But there's some really interesting points there. So that's when you started, getting behind the camera then, when you were skiing. And what did you kind of just fall in love with it? Was it more, because I guess there's like this divide, right? Whether, you're doing it because you're a filmmaker at heart and you're a creative, or are you there's the other side where you're a businessman and you're trying to solve a problem. I mean, you can be both, but what maybe came more naturally at first?
Definitely the filmmaker. There was definitely the passion and the fun, and that's why we kind of like created that film. Was we just did it out of fun, and then we managed to find some sponsors because we've made this thing that looks half decent, like someone's going to pay us for that, right? Some airtime. We put the effort into send it to film festivals, and with the later films we won some awards and stuff. But it was definitely all about passion. And I strongly think you have to start a business that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, it came out of, I've always produced ski edits of me skiing, where I've got other people to film me, friends and stuff, and then I'd make an edit, because that's ultimately what then helped sell the ski company skis that were giving me money or whatever it is, So it was kind of passion led, and then was able to kind of grow into something, I guess, out of that, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so important. People kind of force going into an area that they think is going to make them money, when really it's got to be flipped. You've got to do something that you genuinely love and are passionate about, and then in turn, you can probably monetize that beat someone else that's doing that, because you're so passionate about it that you're going to outwork them. Someone who loves to do something compared to someone who doesn't love to do something, the guy who loves, or girl that loves doing that thing, is going to fucking outwork the person that doesn't, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it just comes down to like overall satisfaction.
Yeah.
No one wants to work a job that you don't enjoy. So don't work a job you don't enjoy. Like, do something about it. And I think that's, a lot of people, again, don't share that. I've had friends and stuff like, they have passions in certain areas, and I give them the advice and, give them the guidance on it. And fast forward 5 years, they're still doing the same thing and still unhappy in those things. And you have to do something you're passionate about. And it can't be money focused. I really strongly believe that, because the reason it can't be money focused is because the second your business isn't making money, it gets pretty hard to get out of bed at, whatever time in the morning. Certainly, if your business isn't making money and that's your only motivation, you're not going to get up at 5 o'clock to try and make some money. It's going to be hard work. Whereas anyone will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do something that they actually enjoy.
Yeah, fact.
And that was it with, with skiing and filming. I just fell into it.
Yeah.
And even business, everything I do now is definitely 100% passion led. Everything. So it makes it easier. There's always going to be hard times, but yeah, you're right.
Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy the business side?
You're asking me at the wrong point. Yeah, I do. I really do. I enjoy business. I enjoy creating something bigger than just me, and that comes with employing people. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy seeing a business grow. I think what I've really learned is like I'm very impatient. Lockdown like taught me that massively. Like I'm a very impatient person, and I really liked starting a business and seeing it grow quickly.
Yeah.
When you have to start putting out fires, that's the thing I kind of struggle with, because that's when it's like you have to put in obviously a lot of effort just to like, you know, get one step forward. And that's that kind of thing.
It's literally what an operator is. You're just putting out fires, and it's such a shame because you just want to be doing what you love to do, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, we spoke about this off air, didn't we? Obviously, you've helped me out with a situation currently with a pretty nasty situation with a client that we're probably going to have to be taken to court now, as we mentioned. But, you know, it's just that stuff, you know, the small wins and the good things that happen in business are just overshadowed so much by these things really that shouldn't consume so much of your own energy and attention. And it's just such a shame when that happens. But, you know, it's like what I said when I did that 15-minute episode where just when shit hits the fan, you know, what Tom Hanks said, this too shall pass. I think that's such a big thing. And it's like always going through my head, like you can't always be in a good space in business. You just, you know, it's unrealistic to ever think that. I mean, me and you are very lucky. We both run several businesses that are profitable. And most, I think it's the statistic is something like 90% of businesses fail, you know, within the first year, I think it is. So already we're beating the odds there massively across several businesses. You know, we should be grateful really for being in the trenches. I write, you know, messages of gratitude every day, 3 things every day. And that's one of my latest ones that I do, you know, especially going through the bad times now. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to be in the trenches, because a lot of people aren't, that weren't born into, you know, were born into like a third world country and never get the opportunity that we're getting. So, you know, we're so lucky to even have the opportunity to be here.
I'm love like the whole mindset stuff. Like mindset is so powerful.
It's everything.
It totally is. And I think like there's so many things where I'm like, oh, this is so valuable. Like, and I get really passionate about it because I'm like, I want someone listening to this to have that same epiphany that I had. There's a few things you said there. This too shall pass. I only found out about that. I was scrolling through TikTok. Great use of time. And that Tom Hanks thing came up. And like literally, I'm a super emotional guy. And like tears came to my eyes. Like I was so like, I needed that at that point in my time. And that just helped massively. I love the motivational quotes and stuff as well. Like a plane only takes off into the wind. And every time business gets hard, you know, I think of that. We are suckers for dangling the carrot in front of our face and convincing ourselves that when we get to that next level, life will be better. And you know, mate, geez, this has happened so many times, like with so many things, materialistic as well as like just whatever. Life will be better when we get to this point. Get to that point. But if I just save a bit more, I can have that really nice watch, or I can have that better sports car, or I can do this, or I can do that. And if you don't take a bite, like it is really bad, and you have to do that. You have to reward yourself on the way up.
You can't forget where so easy to forget that previous chapter as soon as you reach the next. Like, you know, again, we had a big setback, as I said, with a huge client that we had to get rid of, as I mentioned to you previously. And you know, that's a step back, right? But, you know, and then I'm there like, fuck, you know, where we were last month, we've dropped to, you know, not that but then if I look where we were 3 months ago, or look where we were 6 months ago, it's like, if that was me back then, I'd be like, fucking get over it. Like, you're in a better space than we are, kind of thing. So,
Kath, my wife Kath, for me, like, we all joke, like the whole team of people that I employ, she is the real business person. Like she's the person that makes all the decisions, and she's the one that always like brings me up in that sense, because I really will drive myself into a spiral sometimes, especially when my head's not right and stuff. And that's through a lot of things, you know. I'm a very self-aware person, and I'm conscious when I don't do things like meditate, or I haven't had a holiday in a while, and my best ideas come to me when I'm on holiday and when I'm relaxed, or when I'm in the shower. Actually, I have a lot of really good clarity in the shower. So I'm trying to involve those things into my life more.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's great for that, where I'd be like, oh my God, that's it. Like it's all going down the pan. Like I'm gonna have to sell the business. Like this is so shit. Like I'm so done. And then we're 40% up on last year or whatever. And it's just like, oh yeah. And then we look back, and we every so often we reflect, you know, we always wanted a family. Like we have a beautiful house, you know, and all of these things, like, you know, we're doing well, and it's hard sometimes to find that whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, that one. You guys know what I mean.
But it's I think the thing is, even if you go back, let's say look at checkpoints. If you go from checkpoint C to checkpoint D, and then you go back to checkpoint B, you think, fuck, you know, I'm right back to the start. But we seem to take for granted is actually what we learned from getting to checkpoint D is what we didn't have when we were last time at checkpoint B. So that is like invaluable, and you'll scale back that much quicker because of, you know, the business knowledge that you've gained from that experience, which is something I don't really ever think about. But, you know, if I think about even myself 6 to 8 months ago, you know, there's so many things now that, you know, you're consistently learning from, mainly experience and just being in the trenches, that you didn't know then, that is going to make your next month, next year, that much better.
I think this doesn't help. This helps people that are going through it, but it doesn't necessarily help new starters too much. But experience does make you get better at that as well, and noticing that. Every time now after putting out a lot of fires, every time something happens and you're like, it's a dread. You get filled with a dread, like an anxiety, a depression. You all of these, like, you get, suddenly I get flooded with it. Like it's horrible. It's not a nice place to be in many areas. But I know now deep down that, I've got to put in this work now, but my business will look much better at the end of this. When this has passed, the business will look better. And there's a lot of reassurance in that now. You know, we've had people try and sue us and things like that. And when we've come out the other side of it, we've now got SOPs and structures to ensure that we do everything well, and, like, you know, we were successful, by the way, on all these cases. I mean, by the way, there's not all these cases. There's like one, but anyway, you know, it's a difficult. It might feel difficult now, but it will get better, and you will, if you get through it with hard work and determination, then your business will look so much better as a result.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. On that point, then, because I think that there's a lot of value from those moments, and then how you overcame them. You mentioned SOPs that you've built in. I mean, I know we're jumping around. I want to go back to the start of, you know, the production company and moving ahead there. But I think this is a nice little segue. What was one of those moments then? You mentioned about being sued. What happened there?
Yeah, well, a variety of things. So that particular thing didn't really go anywhere. Disgruntled employee, effectively. We actually, and actually through previously, we had learned to, no matter what, if you're employing people, seek legal advice. If you're getting rid of people, seek legal advice. Just make sure you're doing things like, make sure you have things in place that are a pain in the ass. Like to sit there and write up all of your policies on everything from health and safety to neurodiversity to all of these workplace things, lone working policies, all of these things.
That's a big one, health and safety. I didn't even know till not that long ago that actually, no, that supposedly.
I've known since day one.
Yeah, but that you have to do those health and safety checks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Changes with the amount of people you have as well. Things can be verbal before that point. After a certain point, you can't. And they're a nightmare because all you want to do, or all I want to do, is just create some really cool content for some brands, or go skiing, or do those things. And it's like you can't. You're then in. Now you can outsource that, but it depends on flow and like finances and cash flow and all that stuff. But you come out of that having learned a lot, and now our business is that one step more legit, I like to call it. One step better every time. And not everyone's perfect. As humans, we're designed to be flawed. We're not going to get it right. But as a side note, some people will find this valuable, and I gave you the same advice. There's a company called ACAS, ACAS. They provide like free advice, like impartial advice, whatever. And I found them really helpful as well. So just as a bit of value in case anyone needs an extra pair of hands, I found that really cool as well, speaking to like local solicitors and stuff as well.
Nice.
But in that particular case, it turns out we had done everything fine, so there was no grounds for anything bad to happen. But that's a small snapshot of like so many fires you have to put out in your business, and that process is still the same. It feels like a kick in the face. Like you're like, I'm just trying to do everything I can to get my business to where I want it to be, and like you're excited about growing a business. Your team are excited, and then when these things happen, and it's kind of a compounding effect as well. That becomes a little bit like that. But maybe
I think that's why it's so important to as well build like a great team around you. And I can't use this phrase anymore because I've heard it's toxic, but build a family. Apparently that's
who gets to say what is toxic?
Apparently it's like this thing where companies that call themselves a family are actually just manipulating their staff into doing things that break their boundaries and stuff. But I don't fully believe it, to be honest. It's like very much a generalization.
I think I understand that. I tried to do a lot. Unlike you, right? I might not agree with the advice, but I tried to follow the advice because I'm thinking that someone much smarter than me has probably done some studies. I'm guessing. So I tried to take that. You guys have got a great brand culture. Like I definitely like 100, and I've openly said this to you as well. Like I 100% look up to what you're doing. We're currently going through a recruitment thing at the moment, and we've obviously looked at you and other businesses and stuff as well as like that's where we would like to be. I think you honestly have that done really well.
I think like when we hire, I'm like more looking at their traits and personality and if they fit into our culture pillars as a business, because as great as experience is, and to be honest, it's becoming more important to hire people that are very experienced in certain roles because we want them teaching us stuff. But I'd recommend people, especially at the start of their businesses, I genuinely think the best thing is not hiring on experience, it's hiring on the person, because you can easily teach someone how to do something. What you can't teach is, certain characteristics such as being hardworking, all these other things that are really important and can get you a long way. So, I'd say to anyone, starting a business that is looking for their first couple of hires, find someone who, is bought into your vision that, aligns with your characteristics and goals for the business. I think is different to you as well in ways. And, you have skill sets that are different to each other, because I think a lot of people, it's very easy to fall into the trap of hiring someone very similar to yourself. I think my first hire was very much that. But that's something I would say on that point.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of second that as well, like, oh, mate, we've literally had people tell us that they've done a piece of work, a piece of video content, they've fully produced it, filmed it and edited it, and then we've hired them and it's been like, well, it's very apparent you didn't do that. And then they've been like, oh yeah, no, I worked on this with someone, and you're like, oh yeah, that's annoying. See ya.
With video as well, especially. It's hard to differentiate who's actually done the work and not.
Yeah, and we kind of run ourselves into a bit of a trap where we've got without blowing our own trumpet, we've got very good at what we do in terms of fast turnaround times, high quality, premium level of production on like a cost-effective strategy, and then to try and fill our shoes has been difficult as well. So our strategy we're kind of thinking is bringing someone in, and then new clients can work with the new person.
Right.
So then there's not like a big disconnect between like us doing a shoot and over delivering effectively. That's also on us to kind of like not do too much of a good job, but sometimes it's hard because as a creative, if you're in a creative industry, you want to do stuff because you think it's cool and it will work, and there's obviously, we look at the data to back those things up. We don't just film stuff like, oh, that's cool, man. But to actually like keep engagement and stuff,
Yeah, makes sense. So going back then, you obviously were making these films. You said you won a few awards. Had you started the production company by this point, or?
You have to talk to my accountant about that. Oh mate, it was a blur. Like it's a blur.
How old were you?
I must have been maybe late to the game, so like 24, cool. Between 23 and maybe 24, 25. Me, mate,
to be honest.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, you're ahead of where I was. I think like this. Like I was always like, even with skiing, like I was just a little bit later to the game. I got into that quite late and stuff. But whatever. It's not like necessarily a downside. So it was the question like winning like awards and.
Yeah. So when did you then start the production company? What were those first? What was it like at the start? Did you how are you getting clients, etc., etc.?
Yeah. Okay. Got you. So it. Okay. Got you. So now. That's where it was a bit blurred, because it was like, right, I would ski in the winter, and then I was like, I would get some like summer clients before we go down to New Zealand and start the competition season or whatever. So then I really juggled the two for a couple of years, and then it was really with my knee injury that I was kind of like, Kath wants to settle down and stuff as well, and like not getting paid like a footballer, need to think about like some kind of other strategy. So that's where I then kind of decided to kind of stop the skiing side of things and then just go full-hearted into video production. At the time, I was still living at home as well, and I honestly think this was in the book as well, but you can hit the reset button like up to the age of 30, up to 25 comfortably, in terms of like, try it, run a business. If it doesn't work, cool, you can get something else to do. Like you have very little things that depend on you. Whereas when you get older, and obviously now you've got a family, a house, mortgage, all these things like that, obviously start to depend on you. Your risks are a little bit more risky. That kind of initial phase of stopping skiing, starting a business, I just went wholeheartedly into it. Started contacting local businesses. Hey, we're doing some filming, referrals. I know, loads of people in the ski industry. Do you know anyone that can do this? And before long, I would then be, I had like a client base that I was able to work all year round. Really, up until before COVID, by the way, I was still going away like 7 times a year.
Wow.
I was just getting paid for producing video content opposed to skiing for myself.
You so Fred, who's our creative director, you actually, weirdly, this is another link, you met Fred on a shoot, didn't you?
Yeah,
like before he ever worked with me.
So, and
before I ever knew you as well, right?
Yeah. So Fred's a legend. We did this shoot. It's like, how much do you say?
Tell him all. We're unwinding here.
So we did a shoot for Monster Energy, done through an agency. Had a lot of my friends involved in the shoot and stuff, which was cool. And I was flown out to do this one shot. I was flown out for a week to take this red camera and this whole setup. So about £100,000 worth of gear. It had an Arri Cine lens. And it was my job to, for some perspective, to go into a jump, a 65-foot jump, probably doing about 30 miles an hour with this production rig, and follow a ski athlete over the jump while they do a trick right in front of me. Not crash into them, keep the camera the right height, and do that. And I'd done this in the past because I was always like, your equipment's limitation is only you. Like, you put the limitation on it. Loads of people play it safe. They don't want to smash up thousands of pounds worth of gear. I get it, but I was like, we're going to get the best shots if we try this. So that's always been my approach. So I got flown out for that shoot. That's where I met Fred. Poor guy at the time was having a bit of a mare. We basically all said, you need to leave this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you need to leave this job. Like, you weren't being treated very well. Not by Monster. I'm just going to put that out there. Not by Monster, just for complete clarity.
Don't you worry. He had a pretty bad situation at his last company, and I'm pretty sure there's a law case right now against that guy over the way that he treated all of his staff. So
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that everything at that company has been has been frozen.
Okay.
Because all of his team have taken him to court.
Okay, right. So that, firstly, does not surprise me. And obviously,
So you saw some of that happen?
Oh, yeah. Fred picked me up from the airport at early hours of the morning or whatever, because he was just sent to come and get me. Then there were so many things. So Fred is like a diamond, and we did this shoot.
I can't believe he put up with some of the shit I've heard.
The shoot was horrendous, and that was the whole film crew that were involved were amazing. They made it happen, and obviously I played a small part in that, a small but big part. Could have wrecked their camera, and then they've got no film. So that's how I met Fred, and then obviously in that time from that we know each other. And then you came to our studio to do a bit of training.
We did.
And Fred got out the car, and I was like, I know you.
That's so weird.
It's nice to
probably
see
not
it.
surprised that he'd moved on from that.
No, and actually, I tell you what, it's actually really nice to see him thriving with you guys, because it's I didn't know, I knew Fred for a week, and built up a good rapport with him. I make friends with pretty much anyone, but that was it. That was the last time I saw Fred. But it's actually really nice to see him thriving here.
And mate, no, I appreciate that. And he will as well, because he's very talented at what he does. And I went to uni with him, so I've seen firsthand how he was treated at his old job and some of the messages that he would receive. And this is obviously when I'd started the business, and it became very hard to get him. I've eventually thought, firstly, this is really affecting his mental health, and it almost felt like an abusive relationship, like with a man and a woman. Whoever's the abuser, but where you feel you can't get out of that relationship because you're almost blinded by this. And it really felt like that with him, because it took a lot of convincing to get him to make the jump and leave that job. And he manipulated massively during the process, and it felt to me like a no-brainer because of the way he was being treated. But it's sometimes, I guess, when you're in those situations, you are just blind.
It's amazing that people can run businesses like that as well. This is what always gets me. I
doesn't have any longevity to it though.
True. Yeah, very true. Time does tell. But I just think I don't know. I often say I run our business the way I'd like to be treated, and we're very open, honest, transparent. I'm an open book anyway. And you guys will probably get this from the podcast. I'm happy to talk about pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Often always unfiltered, and sometimes think maybe that's a bad thing, and employees as friends and kind of things. But I really just think that's the way I'd like it, so that's how I'm going to run it. And time will tell if we're right or wrong. Sometimes you do get the wrong kind of people that maybe do take advantage of that, not intentionally take advantage of that, but that just naturally happens.
Yeah.
I don't
have to realign though when that happens. It's just a slight realignment, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think just constantly learning the whole time as well. Every time something happens, you become a better version, of yourself, and take those things forward. I'm a completely different person now than I was, a year ago and before then, and so many other things as well. And if you just kind of stay true to you. I know that we'll talk about this later with the academy, but that's our approach there. It's no one can say anything if you're just yourself. I'm just who I am. I'm not, I don't like to lie or bullshit through anything. I really hate confrontation. I really don't do well with it at all. And that's I think, everyone would be like, oh, that's a really good thing, but it's also a really negative thing because you have to deal with it in business. And I find that really, really hard because I'm super empathetic. I can really put myself into anyone's shoes and almost justify virtually anything I can put myself. And that's difficult when you kind of agree with the client, but you're like, no, you're wrong, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's like with a client or with staff. I think it's even if you don't like confrontation, even if you don't mind confrontation, I think when you start a business, there's this huge thing of imposter syndrome at first, I think, where that is such a thing and it takes so much to get over it. I remember actually reading in Gary Vee's book, 12 and a half, I think it's called, something like that, where he talks about all the characteristics that made him a successful business person. And he said it's called a half because the one that he hasn't got, which would make it 13, is candor. I think it is, which is like, you know, basically that being stern with someone when they need to be, but then he calls it kind candor because there's a way you can deliver that message in a way that is empathetic. But you know, apparently it really affected his business for a long time, and he was looking at it more from the perspective of his team. Like he would, you know, he was so nice to people, so much so that he wouldn't tell them about their downfalls or if they were doing something wrong, because he wouldn't like that confrontation, which in turn meant that when he fired someone or got rid of someone because they weren't good at their job, they were so shocked at the proposition of that, because they'd never even had a glimpse of an idea that was the thing, that it made actually him a worse operator. So, you know, although it's really hard to do, like it's something I've definitely had to get over, that idea of, you know, sometimes you do need to be stern with your staff, but it comes from a place of empathy, and it can be delivered in a way that isn't, you know, not a complete arsehole.
Shouting at them. I think there's a huge amount of value like to be had from that. I struggle with as well, because we work in a very subjective industry.
Yeah, so true.
And it's like, I think this looks great. Well, it's not. So can we change that? Like, obviously, we kind of have the final say, but it's like, it's tricky. And we've run into the problem where we're sending work to clients that we're not happy with. And we kind of know from our experience that the clients won't be happy with, but we don't know how to challenge the employee. And we think, well, let's just let it go. And then after, lo and behold, the client's not happy with it. And that just looks bad on us. So it was actually through experience of that made us be like, right, no, we have to say something. And there is something to say, like, you know, are you doing your employee justice if you're not telling them about their downfalls and letting them grow? However, that needs to be accepted well by the employee as well, because if the employee always has an excuse, then that makes that difficult as well. And it's just obvious that some people just aren't going to grow. I think something, if anything, one's kind of struggling with that, one thing that I found helped is having like an SOP, standard operating procedure, or some kind of structure. So we have a capability process that ensures that if someone's not hitting our standard, we run through a whole set of procedures and it either works out with that person or it doesn't. So they're kind of aware of that along that journey. And we didn't have that initially. You know, we've spent time in the past, like spending years trying to get people to where we need them to be and it not working. Now, one thing, being self-aware and empathetic, that is good and bad, and I think, you know, taking a bit of everything here, is do you know what? I've just completely lost my train of thought, which is brilliant.
When it's something that's good or bad, when you're with employees and
oh no, it's gonna go. That's it. And do you know what? I thought that
I've done that so many times. It's when you like rethink of what you're saying and then you just like come out of the situation. Oh, exactly. But no, I completely get what you're saying. Like it's you know, having those SOPs is really important, and you know, you sometimes you can't do that until you've learned from actually experiencing and doing it wrong to then know to build something in.
I've remembered now.
Nice.
It was just thinking inwardly, and that probably was a massive anticlimactic thing to like, just thinking inwardly. But the first thing we do, the first thing is like, if someone misses the ball, whether it's a first draft of a video or whatever it is, it's what, and the managers that we have as well share this, is what did I not do properly? What did I not explain? And we have this culture of like, I think you call it maybe managing upwards or whatever. Like, you know, Nathan's held accountable to the people below him. I'm held accountable to those people as well. And it's looking inwardly. Now, you know, we sit down with a team member, and if this happens a while, and we say, okay, what do you need from us? Okay, so we then come up with a sheet, a list. Potentially, it hasn't been articulated properly to them, and that's why they've misunderstood this project. So from now on, we fill out this sheet, and we pass that over to the editor. So it's on the sheet, it's there. You do these things a few times, and you look inwardly, and obviously, if there's still issues, then you can only look externally. You know where the problem is. Yeah. But I think people are quite quick to blame something or someone, when actually you can kind of manage a lot of those things by looking into yourself.
I agree. It's so true, actually. And I think I had a big problem with accountability for a while. I remember even saying it to my team. I think we did something at the start of the year where I asked everyone think they're there now actually. With these cards, it's kind of like a that big netted thing up there. But I said I want everyone to write down one characteristic that is your current weakness you feel is a weakness, and then we can all look at how we can try and improve on that together. And it's just a way of being transparent with one another and accepting we all have downfalls and things that we can work on. It was actually a really good exercise. I really liked it. But mine was, at the time, was like lack of accountability. Because, if something happened with a client, even if that really was the client's fault, you've got to take some level of accountability, because there are things you could have done to prevent that happening. And, that's a big thing that I had lacked for a long time. So I completely agree. I mean, internally, it's huge. Like, if someone in your team does something really wrong, for the most part, you've got to look firstly at yourself, your training, your procedures. Why did that happen? You're the last line of defense as the director, So you do have to take that accountability and that ownership, and it's sometimes really hard to swallow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's always difficult with clients because I know people whose first response is, well, they kind of assume, well, that's the client's fault. And I obviously, as someone who envies that trait, to be able to be upfront, forward, stern, I'm like, oh God, if I could just be a little bit more like them. But you're right. Your clients aren't the expert. You're the expert at what you do. You cannot expect a client to know that in order for you to run my Facebook ads, you need to pay Facebook. Like, you're the expert. You have to assume that I don't know that. But because we get caught in this, because we're experts at what we do, we get caught in our own jargon and we get caught in our own, obvious nature of things. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, they shouldn't expect to know what the process is for creating a video. And that's our job to educate. There's obviously ways that you can get around that. You can have videos on your website, frequently asked questions. You can have things where you onboard a client and you send them a video saying, hey, this is Ross from Perspective Studios. Just so you know, this is how the process typically works. This is what you can expect, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whatever, to make your life a bit easier. But it does point back at you at the end of the day. But I also lack the nature of sometimes standing up for ourselves in that sense.
Yeah, so on that then, what is the middle ground for when it is so subjective? When you're the expert, because we've had that before where we know something is better, as people that are in production, in film, and it's the most frustrating thing when a client asks you to do something that is going to make the film look worse, but they are so stubborn and at the end of the day, it's their money and their decision, right? But how do you deal with those situations? Because I feel like that's such a big thing in this game.
And we have this all the time. I'll give you one experience that we're going through at the moment. And we're actually trying to, without them knowing, prove our concept. So we believe that adding start slides onto videos, as I'm sure you will agree, hopefully agree, will kill your engagement rate. Because
massively,
if someone thinks they know what the video is about, they won't watch the video. So putting a start slide saying this is what the video is about, they'll just make their own assumptions and won't watch it, right?
Yeah, and also you need a powerful visual hook in those first few seconds, or people are going to drop off.
Curiosity straight away. So we did one. They're all owned by a huge company, but kind of run a bit independently. So we did a video for one company where they took our advice. Insanely successful. We then did another one, and they demanded these start slides. And apparently, it doesn't, from our perspective, it doesn't seem like that. So we're just trying to get the stats to then prove that point. But again, so just back to that point of how, do you just do what the client says? And the answer to that is and it's frustrating. And
do you push back at all and say this is our, as the experts, this is our...
That's our go-to line. We can do this. You might be on a shoot and they might say, can we do this or whatever? And you say, yes, physically we can do this, but from my experience, I would advise that we don't, and here's why.
Yeah.
And give them a backup. Like, we suggest that this doesn't work because of this. Often the client will take your advice on it, or they'll just be like, let's film it anyway and let's see. Okay, fine, takes a little bit more time out of the day, but we'll film it anyway and it probably won't make the edit. If we're talking about the editing point where we actually give them back a finished video and they don't like it and they want to make these changes, they want to add a start slide and stuff, same thing. We will push back, but politely push back. And ultimately, if they, this particular case, by the way, it's probably pushed back the most that we have, where we continue to say, please, let's not do this. Please, it's really bad. Like, trust me. And they've been like, no, we want it. Like, everyone wants it. Cool, fine. Okay, you can have it. And from a creative industry, that can be disheartening.
Yeah, for sure.
I think to understand your work is not a direct reflection of you. Okay, so when client critiques your work or they want changes or anything like that, like, they're not having a go at you. They're not saying, Lucas, you're absolutely terrible at your job, or like, or whatever. They're just critiquing the piece of work. Now, yes, in some senses that there's an extension there of, like, you know, your work is a representation of, like, your thoughts and stuff, but you need to learn to become a bit more disconnected from that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And that's something that takes time with the team. And we find that when we have new staff who are fresh, perhaps out of uni or first into the role, like, that's something that takes a lot. Like, it takes me a lot. Like, I've had awkward conversations with when clients have rung me up and you've missed the ball on this. Like, this looks shit, quite frankly. And it's like, oh, wow, I actually thought that was good. What have we missed? And it's like, we're trying to ascertain, do we need to reshoot this? Is it something that we've shot? Is it something that we haven't filmed? Yeah. And often it's actually just the way that, like, the edit is or something like that they just want to change. And actually a lot of the issues we face can be resolved within the edit. But sorry, I might have, like, kind of dived into that kind of bit too much, but it's, yeah, we kind of, I don't know if this is right or wrong. I don't say that we do everything right, but the way that we do it is, we kind of suck it up, and it's kind of like, at the end of the day, you're paying the money. If that's how you want it, fine. However, my advice is that we don't do this. Yeah,
makes complete sense.
I think there's a happy medium there. What would you say for you guys? Because obviously you have, like, creative branch of the business as well.
Yeah, it's very similar to what you said. I think we, you know, I mean, for me, it's like if I'm bringing an expert in to do a job that they are clearly, you know, experienced at and an expert at, you know, it's like I don't hire a lawyer or an accountant and say, no, you should do it this way. You know, when you know what I mean? Imagine? But like, I get it. It's like and that's why it's a completely different space, because it's, you know, it's their baby at the end of the day, their business, and you do have to be empathetic towards that and know that people do have different tastes. And although, you know, something might perform in a better way or might make the film better, you know, you're creating something for them at the end of the day, and all you can do is, you know, give your point of view, and like you said, it's well said, like, disconnect from it. You know, you can't be so attached to something that at the end of the day is like an exchange of an offering. It's an exchange of a service. It's an exchange of a product, actually. You know, it's their product and they're going to have it the way they want it. So yeah, I think it's, you know, you've got to have empathy for that.
Just as a very quick point on that, looking inwardly, why is it not what they expected? Now, from a creative industry, we don't, you know, not everyone's creative. The vast majority of people aren't creative. So when I say to you, imagine this elephant walking into the room, it'll be really cool, we'll do this and we'll do this at X, Y, Z. And, you know, you have a completely different vision, but you're a bit of a creative person. Some people just cannot physically understand that. So you might show them examples of competitors, examples of previous work that you've done, animatics, storyboards, those kind of things, try and get those things down. So if anyone in, like, a, you know, I guess creative environment has those things, then it's sometimes, again, just looking at, like, okay, is your process what it should be? Could you have done anything better? Are you going to change anything? Yeah. And sometimes you don't have to, like, as well. It might just be a one-off. But if you're getting those problems all the time, then, which we don't, I would say, I'm going to be honest with you, 90% of work that leaves our door doesn't come back with an amendment. Like, it's actually, we hit the nail on the head more often than not all the time. There's a few that do, and we probably get 2 clients a year. In the whole year, we probably get 2 clients where we, for whatever reason, really missed the ball. And there's some kind of normally a communication breakdown that's happened.
Yeah, it all comes down to communication, always, because it's not like it's not a representation of you can't create quality work. It's never that, is it? I completely agree. So let's get back to the kind of the progression of the story then. So, you Perspective Studios is going really well. That business is growing. You've gone full time in the business. Like, what does some of that journey look like? And then how did you then, make the decision to start a course?
Yeah, sure. So this is where you're going to get complete transparency and open and honesty. And I always feel really weird talking about this because I feel like I'll be judged. It'll make sense in a minute, but I really feel like there's a huge judgment. So I think it's just like, stick with me through this. So we obviously started Perspective Studios, employed a couple of people. We were working out. We have like a detached garage at the back of our house, so we converted that into an office space, and we worked out of that, a team of 3 of us, and then we made the necessary jump into the studio, developed that.
Sick studio, by the way.
Thank you, mate.
Great
space.
Cheers.
It is pretty cool. We kind of forget about that until someone comes and visits and they're like, oh my god, this is sick. So we took that studio in February, just before lockdown, and then lockdown happened. We're like, we're gonna be fine, it'll just be 3 months, right? And then we're like, oh, shit. And we reacted really late to that. And in hindsight, that was a bit damaging, like financially. But we managed to get through it, and we were stronger, etc. We didn't really furlough anyone, maybe for the odd week here and there, but it all stayed pretty good. Then we continued to kind of expand the team, and we did get through that. Actually, we got into a space of just like trying to like take anything we could, and now we're actually trying to train ourselves to just relax a bit more. We can say no to work. Like, it's okay. A little bit as we head into a recession, so maybe not, but anyway, it's a lot of putting out fires. So, and this is the point I was going to talk about with moving on to like the academy. So setting up the studio hire thing was a no-brainer. We've got this huge studio space, we're not going to use it every day, so let's hire it out. So we just have that on the side. And I haven't always wanted to run a course. That's the corporate thing to say. That's the media train thing. So I went to a seminar where I wanted to learn how to grow my business to the next level. So I took a marketing course. I went for a 3-hour free thing. And he was like, who wants to come to, our 3-day boot camp? You're going to learn all of this stuff, etc., etc. There's a room of like 60 people, and I don't know, 50 people got up, followed this guy to the back of the room, signing up $2,000. I'm like, yeah, I do want to learn these things. So I made a conscious effort, like a conscious decision. Like, I wasn't sucked in by any of like the tactics. I was like, okay, this makes sense. So I went on this marketing course, and he's like, who wants to come to my $20,000 retreat thing? I swear to God, like out of this room of like 100 people, again, probably another 20 people signed up for this thing. I was like, I've never known someone make so much money so quick. Like, we're talking hundreds of thousands in the space of a 3-hour seminar and a 3-day boot camp. What the hell? I need to learn what this guy's on. So initially, I started the course completely out of money, achieving goals, and also
first person to be honest about that, I think.
Yeah, and I think
most people say they're passionate about education.
Yeah, love it, man.
But it's so, I rate the honesty.
Cheers. I think, and for anyone that does, and I'll dive into this a bit more because I feel like I can kind of justify it a bit more and how it's changed my life that I didn't expect it to. And I think when you see the course, and of course we're making sales, we're selling a course, like, so we are using like tactics and strategies, of course, but we actually benefit people's lives, and I'll talk about that anyway, but I say we, it's me. Like, it's literally me. Like, no one works at Perspective Academy other than me. Yeah. Like, and it's an identical reflection of who I am. Like, I'm just transparent and honest. You can ask me anything, I'll be honest about it. And people have bought the course or asked me, like, why did you start it? And I've given them the same thing. It's like, this is truly why I started it, because I thought it would be a very lucrative market. Lots of people doing it, could be great. What changed my entire life, and by the way, I have strong reasons why, in terms of a better life for my family and all these things, that you need to have a why in your life, right? Not just money. It's like, why are you doing this for money? And what do you want to do with that? you can, if you've only got £10 in your bank account, you can only help so many people, very few people. If you've got £1 million in your bank account, you can actually help a lot of people. You can, you have more of a voice, So there are these underlying tones, by the way. So I set up this course and it completely flopped. I spent like 2-3 grand setting it up and it flopped. So I asked Jordan for some help. That's where I got in touch with Joe and that came around and we helped relaunch it maybe a year later on. By this point, like I spent like a good 5 to 10 grand and it's like, I don't know if I'm going to make any money at this point. I thought it was all good and stuff. And we launched it and we had some external help as well. And it became successful really quick. And I was like, great. What I didn't see coming, and that has completely changed my life, is the fulfillment. I've never had fulfillment to the point where I have it. When I actually, so we teach a system called the RCP, okay? And it's how to sign clients onto retainer systems for video production and photography. Effectively is what it is. There's also lots of other strategies on sales because creatives are really good at creating. They're really good at that passion thing, creating cool content, but they're not very good at understanding that, like when I was a skier, you remember me saying, like being able to leverage that business, that return on investment. And that's something I understood quite well, which is why the businesses have worked out quite well. So I now teach that. But to then teach someone something, and I have heaps of imposter syndrome all the time. Coming on this podcast, like I'm not worthy. Like sounds joking, but literally, like why? Like why me? And I have this all the time, and it's something that I really have to kind of battle and work for as well. The only thing that makes that better is that when you teach someone something and they then have success, you're like, for the first person, when they sign their first client, literally in a few weeks, I was like, huh. I was lucky, that kind of thing. And then
you believe in the...
And then more people, then tens, and then hundreds are like signing multiple clients. And you're like, this is actually changing people's lives. Like, oh my God. Like, and then we do like personal mentoring and stuff. And I'm involved. I provide like live Q&As with the Academy members. And people say, why can't you just give it away for free then? Well, I've given it away to 10 people for free. Friends, family, people I know who need that support. One person has logged on, and that one person has sat through about 3 modules.
Yeah,
it's accountability. It's accountability. Right. If you're going to pay me, like I paid that guy $2 grand or whatever. If you're going to pay someone $2 grand, 10 grand, £200 dollars, whatever. If you're going to do that, you're going to be like, I'm going to make sure I listen to everything they say, and then I can prove or disprove their points. Yeah. When I went on that marketing course, cost me a couple grand. I was like, I want my investment back. So I did everything he said, and I made my money back. Of course I did. I held myself accountable. I got up early. I put in the hard work. And that's where it comes into it. People, when you give things away for free, it's easy come, easy go. You have some kind of accountability there, which is financial. Yes, it's a business. I did start it because of money. But now we're having these conversations, and Nathan and I sat down about this the other day. Nathan's my right-hand man with Perspective Studios. And I've been putting out fires for a long time, and it's really taking its toll. I'm extremely tired and exhausted just from being a father. I don't know how my wife does it. She smashes it. And it's been difficult, and I feel over it. Like I feel done. Like I'm just done with it. I'm not. Because deep down I know I'm not.
It'll come back.
It will, yeah. And
what is it, being client facing, or is it more
everything.
The team? Is it?
It's all angles. Like it's been a year of compounding shitness. Like it has been. We've lost a lot of clients.
Why is that?
And I spoke to someone about this the other day, right? This morning actually. And I don't know if this is like good or bad, but it's like not our fault. And almost sometimes you'd rather it be your fault because you can do something about it. 2 of them aren't developing their products anymore. One of them, she's gone on maternity leave. The business owner doesn't want to get involved in marketing, so we have to wait a year until that comes back. Someone else is taking it in-house, and for 1 or 2 other people, it was like just internal finances. It was just cash flow with them. Like that was the biggest problem. Small businesses, in those cases. So that came literally one after the other of these contracts not renewing. And the mistake that we made was, because we'd been busy, we weren't filling the funnel, right? We weren't making sales because we were too busy.
That's literally what I said on on that fucking when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
When things are going really fucking well, you get comfortable and you don't think about months in advance in keeping that funnel bit packed.
Yeah.
I could not agree with you more on that point.
It's been insane. And then obviously, you've got things happening as well as business, and it's just been crazy. And it sounds all really depressing, and it's actually not. Like I said, the business is doing really well. Like it's like there's a lot of positives, but when you're in that spiral, it can be really depressing overall. So it was like, right, and I did a video on my YouTube channel on like my failing video production company where I talk about this, and it was like, right, so what am I going to do? I've got two options: close the business or continue.
Yeah.
I'm obviously going to continue. So what am I going to do about it? Well, we're going to start doing sales. I'm going to start holding myself more accountable. I'm going to employ an external sales team because we have some cash reserves. We're going to start to function things a bit more. And actually, there's always a silver lining, and everything does happen for a reason. I truly, truly believe that. And actually, some of these clients leaving and moving on has given us the opportunity to restructure our business in a way that before we didn't realize it wasn't sustainable. Whereas now, with our systems and procedures, we can mean that a brand new person that comes through the door knows no different than the way that we do things.
Yeah.
And that's been a real positive take home, and we're getting through the back of this, and Nathan and I discussed about, I really want to focus on the academy because I get so much fulfillment. I'm so excited about it. We've got so many new ideas. We're doing these wild guarantees that we will be doing soon, where it's like, we're just so confident in the product that we've got, and after seeing it work time and time again, that we feel like we can just help so many people, and that's really rewarding for me personally. Very selfish, but very rewarding. And Nathan's going to head up Perspective Studios for the most part. I'm still going to be actively involved in a lot of areas. I have to be in certain ways, but it's about creating that plan of action. What are you going to do about it? Because it's not going to get better by itself. So what can you do to make things get better?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at, and already we're making good progress. Like I spoke about earlier, though, it's been really difficult for me because I haven't had that motivation. Whereas a couple of years ago, get up super early, I'll smash this out.
That's so natural though. Like, you're never going to be fucking motivated all the time. I think it's so unrealistic to think that that's possible. We're all human at the end of the day, and it's just not going to happen. But I completely agree. I think I agree that everything happens for a reason. And I think these setbacks are really what you need to give you a fucking kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Because I think when you get too comfortable, you aren't keeping an eye on the market. You're not, looking at how you can adapt and swerve what's happening and, continuing to, improve what you're doing, you're offering. But then when something like that happens, it's like when I've spoken about this multiple times, but when I'd lost most of my business during lockdown, the first lockdown, I was like coasting up until that point, and that really gave me like that drive to really, grow the business when before I wasn't that bothered about growing it. And sometimes you need those shake-ups to help really drive you to the next level. And
also rethink about what it is you want and what direction you want your business to take. You asked me a question earlier on about, was it passion-led or was it kind of money-led, like in terms of video creation? And it was passion-led, and everything good comes from something that's passion-led, which is why now, my passion is the academy. I absolutely love it, and I've got some really exciting things in the pipeline for that. It doesn't mean for a second that my eye is not off the ball. It doesn't mean that you have to be 100% devoted to this new thing, and therefore, the other businesses are just in the way. It's just I need to structure my time better, and this has actually come around really nice full circle. Actually, like obviously. Things I don't know what it is. Like when stuff comes into my head, I'm like, oh, I've got to say that, and like, oh, this will be valuable, I've got to say this. So obviously I'll get ahead of myself sometimes, quite often, because I just want to like, I don't know, I found this like love for like, helping people or giving people things that they'll find useful, and I want people to have that same aha moment that I've had, where it's like, do you know what, that really connected with me, and that really hit home, and that was helpful. And sometimes when you do these things, like you don't know, if it falls on deaf ears or if it's taken in as well.
I can agree more. Well, Ross, I think we've spoken about so much, and we could keep going all night. I think.
Of course.
there's a lot of stuff we could talk about, and I think I mentioned this on the last one, so I'm going to recycle my same joke, but we'll probably be recycling the same guests again before long, because I'm just using up my whole network just week after week. Just that's another one down, another one.
Mate, no, yeah, you're getting through them.
But no, mate, really appreciated it. I think we really did, relate on a lot of things there that were really, really useful for me, even hearing it from yourself. And there's a lot I think we have similarities in. I think you're absolutely smashing it in the businesses. I love that the academy is you're loving doing that, and it's clearly working and doing wonders. I mean, my team says they come across your ads as well.
Yeah. Well, we spend a lot of money in ads.
Yeah. But, appreciate the time, mate. And where can people find you? In your details, the course, etc.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, well, first, mate, I really appreciate it. Honestly, I'm very humbled to come on here. And yeah, I obviously would love to come back and obviously I'll leave it to people to tell you if they found this useful. But I'd love to give like an update and stuff as well, because I feel like that's...
Because we're still so young.
Yeah, we are.
A lot of people don't start businesses until they're, I think Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon until he was 40 or something like that, which is...
fills you with so much hope, doesn't it? You're like, oh, it's not too bad.
I'll be the next billionaire.
I'll get there one day.
Yeah.
No, mate, it's been awesome. And hopefully, at least if one person's taken something useful away from this, then it's absolutely worthwhile. The main place is probably YouTube. I've been trying to grow a YouTube channel for a little while, again providing like lots of value on there, and I talk openly about these things as well. So it's just Ross Welch, WELCH, if you need to find it. You might even find some old ski videos if you look hard enough. They're probably really bad ones, but you might even see Joe Hides in the background. YouTube is probably the main one, and then Perspective Academy is obviously our business. You'll find the links through YouTube anyway, or on Instagram as well. So you guys will figure it out. It's certainly not a sales pitch by any means, but I've really appreciated, equally your time. It's one of the, I said to you openly, it's one of the first podcasts that I actually listen to, and I find I get a lot of value from it as well. I appreciate you doing this. That's why I feel a bit imposter syndrome to be on it. I'm like,
not at all.
There's nothing special about me, trust me. But sure.
No, Ross, thank you so much. Go check Ross out. You won't regret it. And if you enjoyed this episode, you know where to find us on YouTube at Unwind Podcast, as well on Spotify, Unwind Podcast, or if you type in my name, it will come up. Lucas, you know what to do. Give it a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.